Right, hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this second issue briefing on the day 2 of the Sustainable Development Impact Summit. My name is Oliver Kahn. I'm Head of Strategic Communications at the World Economic Forum. We're here to discuss one of our standout reports and research projects that the Forum, along with its partners, has been involved in the run-up to this meeting. The Global Battery Alliance was formed a few years ago, initially in an attempt to eradicate the child labour and poor labour conditions of folks involved in extracting the minerals that go into the batteries, but of course has morphed into a larger project now aimed at trying to understand the role that batteries and battery technology can play in helping address the Sustainable Development Goals in general. So, issue briefings, 30 minutes, shorter than your average session. There's a reason for that. We like to keep things lively, we like to keep things engaged and interactive, encourage anyone to throw up their hand up at any time, encourage disagreement, please, if you have, I think this goes for you on the panel too, if you have anything to say which you don't agree with, please do say. The time will go very, very fast. We've got a big issue to talk about here. So Global Battery Alliance, the report, I was involved in the media launch of it last week, some pretty kind of high impact numbers. We believe, after having done this research, that emissions in the transport and power sectors can be cut by 30% by 2030. Power and transport, of course, accounting for 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions. We also believe that 10 million jobs could be created. We believe that $150 billion could be added to the global economy. And most importantly, 600 million people could gain access to energy, to electricity for the first time. That's a lot of impact over a lot of areas, and that's where I want to start. So quickly introduce my panel, and then we'll get cracking. Benedikt Sobotka, Chief Executive Officer of Eurasian Resources Group based in Luxembourg. Mr. Xiaoshi, Executive Deputy Secretary General of China EV, on my third down there. Anna, next to Benedikt, Global Vice President, Corporate and Government Affairs of the International Justice Mission, and my far left, Riccardo Puliti, Senior Director, Energy and Extractives at the World Bank, based in Washington, D.C. So let's get one quick question each, and then let's enter into the kind of more fun, interactive side of the session. Benedikt, let's start with you. So we're looking at, and this kind of summary, it kind of is a good summary of the work we do at the Forum, where we try to not just promote public-private partnerships, but get to the complexities of them. We're looking at efforts to control and eradicate child and illegal labor practices. We're looking at avoiding e-waste crises and other external, nasty side effects of batteries. And we're also looking at how do we actually empower this technology to bring about those cuts in emissions that we so badly need. Which of those is the hardest to achieve?
Thank you. All of those are very difficult challenges, and it will take a multi-stakeholder approach to try and resolve them. The challenge we've seen is if you think 100 years back, when the supply chain of the current automotive and transportation electricity sector was built, it struggled with the same issues. Now as we come to this transformation of the lower carbon economy, where we've got a significant shift into the electrification of the transportation sector and into the electricity sectors, we have to make sure that we don't replicate some of the issues that we had when the supply chain in the carbon-based economies was built about 100 years ago. And when you see the role that batteries will play in this, in achieving those climate targets, I think we understand that this is very important. And batteries, because the sheer volumes of batteries, there will be requirement, storage solutions for electricity that will be required over the next years. We set the target of 2030. The numbers are staggering, and we have to make sure that the supply chain is built in a way that it's efficient, that it avoids in itself greenhouse gas emissions, because at the moment a lot of the extractive industries that produce products that go into batteries are not very clean and generate a lot of emissions. We have to make sure that there's circularity in the supply chain, which at the moment does not exist to the extent that it could be. Most of the mobile phones in this room will not be recycled at this moment, and a lot of you in the audience will have plenty of mobile phones lying around at home that are not being recycled, and that's something we have to solve. So it's not just a question of e-waste, but we've produced over the last 25 years lithium-ion batteries, millions of tons that are lying around that are not being reused, and that's a big waste. And of course, the other big element is at the moment the value that's generated across the energy storage and the battery supply chain is distributed very unevenly. And I'll give you an example. A typical mobile phone will cost about $1,000 in the store. the actual material cost of this mobile phone is $150. The battery is $3. The cobalt, which is extracted predominantly in one of the poorest countries in the world, in the DRC, is only 30 cents of $1,000 of economic value generated in a mobile phone. The mobile phone would not exist without the Congo. So we have to find a way to distribute that value across that value chain much more evenly and more sustainably, because people that are sitting at the beginning of the value chain are not seeing some of the benefits that we believe they should be seeing in terms of sustainable and alternative livelihood, sustainable jobs. And that's again where batteries, when we distribute value along the value chain, we have to make sure that this is done in a sustainable fashion, and particularly in Africa and South America and some of the poor, vulnerable regions that generate and produce the materials that we all need for our electronics product and for the electric vehicle revolution. Thank you.
And the report says, I believe, scaling up production by 19 times is necessary. So there are some pain points.
Staggering.
Pain points. What are you most worried about?
Very specifically, we should all be worried about the environmental impact of lithium production in the world, because it's a very water-intensive production. We should be concerned about the environmental impact of nickel production, particularly in Southeast Asia. We should be very concerned about child labor in the copper belt. It's a problem that's very well known, and it hasn't been solved, and it hasn't even been addressed. So this is probably the area that we personally is most at my heart, is because that's something we shouldn't be tolerating. We shouldn't be applying 15th or 16th or 17th century labor practices in an industry that is responsible for the fourth industrial revolution or high-tech products that we all benefit from. So these are the three areas that we believe have to be addressed most, and as part of the global battery lines, we're doing a particularly surgical intervention into child labor through our cobalt roadmap, where we're trying to address that issue.
It does sound like batteries could do more harm than good.
Well, definitely they're doing more good than harm. The question is, they're doing good to some of us and they're doing harm to others. And evening out those imbalances, I think, is one of our responsibilities.
So let's move to you, Anna. This week has been it's not been great news, let's face it. We're seeing global emissions going up when they should be going down. Likewise, forced labor and basic human slavery and lots of labor relation issues are not getting any better in the world. Why is this, and what can you do about it? And how is this alliance, do you think, going to move the needle?
Well, it's true, forced labor is persisting around the world. Over 20 million people in forced labor today. But the good news is it is stoppable. It only persists in locations where governments don't have the capacity or aren't enforcing the laws. And so a lot of the work, I think, that needs to be done is around building institutional capacity to really strengthen child protection systems. The same is true for child labor, where there aren't sufficient systems for protection of children. That's where child labor does persist.
The country, we're focusing mainly here, of course, on Africa, which is where a lot of the extractives, in case I hope I'm not mistaken, a lot of the minerals are extracted. What kind of ability and capability do you have to work with governments in those countries and put those partnerships in place that are so badly needed?
Well, we've seen tremendous progress working alongside governments and building institutional capacity. International Justice Mission works in a number of countries around the world where we've seen a reduction in prevalence both in child labor and forced labor. And so we have great hope that this alliance can also bring together the right partners to achieve similar reductions through partnership. I think the great strength of the Global Battery Alliance is that it's public, private, and civil society coming together. Like you said, it started on the issue of child labor, but has become much more ambitious in its scope. And the report's recommendations on scaling up responsibly, I think, are going to be key in the implementation. And as Benedikt referenced the roadmap, I think we have a clear action plan moving forward to do together.
Are there any best practices from your work with other industries, other value chains that you think you need to see applied, we need to see applied when it comes to batteries?
I think so. I think collaboration with the government is always key. That's always where we've seen our greatest success, and making sure that there are partnerships in place that can sustain the work and strengthening civil society. One of the partners that's a member of the Global Battery Alliance is the Good Shepherd Sisters, that a number of the members of the Global Battery Alliance are working with. And they're doing tremendous work around child protection and education and providing for children coming out of mining. So I think collaboration across all of these sectors is key.
Mr. Liu, you represent EV100, which I understand was initially named because you had around 100 organizations as part of your coalition, but now that has mushroomed, coming from China, which is of course such a huge influence when it comes to battery production and electric vehicle manufacturing. What are the lessons you can share on the practicalities of scaling up responsibly battery technology?
Let me see back to the very beginning, why China was choose the electric vehicle. And China is actually, last year, produced 1.25 million electric vehicle, more than 50% of the worldwide production and consumption. Also, the ownership is over 50%. Actually, the strategy started 10 years ago. Year 2009, China has a lot of problems compared with Western countries. We have the energy problem because China imported 70% of petroleum. And we have the development problem because China has 150 cars per 1,000 people. And the US has 1,000 people, has 800 cars. Even Korea has 400 cars. So as long as the economy grows, the people need more cars. But actually, petroleum, we cannot afford it in the world. So we have to find a way to solve the energy problem, development problem. The third one, China suffers heavy air pollution. The particle matters is 3 times or 4 times compared with US or world standard. Last one, carbon dioxide. China, the #1 carbon dioxide producer in the world. And so all the problems accumulated together push China to find a way, except from the way to figure out without petroleum what we can do. So that's what we call battery technology. Because battery takes 40% of the cost for the EV cars. So China has spent a lot of time or effort on battery development. So until now, we can see China has made great progress. We are the top 3 countries with technology and capacity. And last year, probably China produced more than 60% of the worldwide batteries. And also, we have more than 50% of patents worldwide. We have controlled that for the technology wide. So with 3 countries, we have to share the technology. We have the capacity to stimulate industry. So the cost will decrease yearly, on year base, 10 or 50% until year 2025. So that means at that time, the Chinese-made EV cars cost will lower than the oil burn cars. Also, by that year, and the Chinese solar power cost will lower than coal burning cost. So that we can ensure for economic side, for environmental side, we can make progress. So we have the expectation by year 2030, China can produce 10,000 electric vehicles annually, the ownership 80 million. So that's a Chinese goal. We can surely
which is tremendous progress, and we'd like to maybe hear your thoughts on how that can be replicated in other parts of the world. But first, what are your views on how successful China has been in ensuring that alongside such rapid transformation and growth in that sector, that the correct processes have been put in place regarding the issues we've been talking about as part of this alliance, the forced labor, the child labor, the e-waste and the end of life issues regarding a lack of recycling at the moment. What are the efforts that are kind of being built around this huge growth in production?
Yeah, actually, the building up the capacity is a rapid growth. The last 3 or 4 years, annually 60% growth rate. But the actually volume is still not quite large. So we can see until now, all the batteries have second life or recycle. And first we have found a major use for the retired battery for the telecommunication base station. You know, China has a huge telecommunication system, have 3.5 million of telecommunication base stations in the world, in China, the nationwide. So that can be used. They can use all the retired batteries for that purpose. also has energy storage. We have some of the provinces build up the energy storage facilities for the power, power industry. So in the future, we think we can build up the more energy storage for the shifting the trough or the peak of the electricity daily cycle. That we can save 7% total electricity consumption nationwide. That may be tremendous progress. Lastly, it's for the material recycling, especially from Tenerife battery, the nickel, the cobalt can be fully recycled, and that will cost. That can create, I think, it's create about 12 billion RMB industry for China.
Fantastic. And I'd love to get to some questions, but first, Riccardo, I want to bring you in. So let's just think about some of the numbers one more time. 600 million people connected to electricity for the first time, 150 billion to the global economy. You work for the World Bank. Part of your brief is electrification in Africa and elsewhere. Are these numbers achievable?
I think the numbers are achievable. The World Bank joined the Global Batteries Alliance because we do believe that the deployment, the acceleration, the deployment of batteries in the power sector can do that, can provide more, clean, secure, and affordable energy to more and more people. What are the problems? The problem is that we want to see sustainable batteries, as we were saying, and sustainable batteries start from the first process, which is the mining, to be sure that the human capital is well defended. Then it goes into landscape, forestry. We want forests to be kept as they are as much as possible, water, and all of these finite resources that we're working with. Certainly then we move into processes that we want as efficient from the energy viewpoint as possible, and then little by little we get to the final product and to the recycling. In order to do that, I think we need the work of everybody on the private and on the public sector, and we have to understand that I think there is a global consumer demand for products and services that are sustainable in this very, very, very broad sense. So we work a lot with the GBA, we work with governments to make sure that that laws, regulation, policies are designed in a way that take into account human development, the use of landscape, and to make sure that batteries can be a solution, which we are sure they are, in terms of access of clean energy, etc., but they must be in a way to have the least possible impact.
Let's have a quick show of hands. See who wants to ask a question or make any comments. Gentleman at the back. We'll try to do 2 or 3 if we can. Who else is going to put their hand up? Okay. If you could grab the microphone. If you could just let us know your name and where you're from, please, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Marshall Stoll with the Conrad Hilton Foundation. Thank you for a really informative session. My question is on child labor and unintended consequences. So has research been done and mapping been done to look at the reduction in child labor where there might be then an increase in child sex trafficking or sex work? Because most of the kids and people that are put into forced labor are doing so for a livelihood. So I'm curious about those unintended consequences.
Good question. So on behalf of the Global Battery Alliance, perhaps Benedikt, you can offer some insights into where we've got to in terms of progress. Anna, I'm guessing in your capacity at IGM, you've got some insights to share on other areas that, or other examples that you've been involved in.
I can probably comment from what we learned from the report that Amnesty International put out and has since been updating on the issue of child labor in the Copper Belt. And the numbers are quite significant. They're estimated around 60,000 children in that area that are involved in some kind of mining activity, typically not the actual mining, but then the further processing and transportation and so on, washing. What we haven't seen is that we actually haven't seen any reduction in those numbers. Quite the opposite. When prices were high last year for those materials, the economic activity in the other sectors dropped and people moved into the mining activities because you had the opportunity of a livelihood, which of course means the entire family was working. But in a micro in a micro way to look at it is across our operations in the DRC in particular. We work with the Good Shepherd Sisters, which is a Catholic organization that runs schools and child protection centers and alternative livelihood programs. And I actually came back on Friday from the opening of one of those child protection centers that we were proud to sponsor, which will take 1,000 children out of mines into schools. Because the alternative to working in these mines has to be the school. It has, for children, it cannot be some other kind of activity. So I'm not so concerned about the sheer numbers as long as we're making small progress in certain areas. And I think the next area we're going to be focusing on is another child protection center with also Good Shepherd Sister for another 1,500 children. These are the kind of small incremental steps that really make a difference, but it has to be done in parallel with alternative livelihood programs for the parents, so they find a way out of the mines for themselves and for the children. Because in general, artisanal mining, it's an anachronism. It shouldn't happen, it's dangerous. Even if people try to make it more sustainable, in the long term, it cannot be the future for a supply chain that's supposed to create $150 billion in economic value.
And you're nodding vigorously.
Well, I was just going to answer the part on displacement. We don't typically see displacement when you're building the overall capacity of a government to protect children. If you're focused on a specific crime, if the nature of the crime changes, I can give you the example of the Philippines. We were working with the government to reduce the number of minors in the sex trade in specific areas in the Philippines. After 10 years, we saw significant reductions, up to 79% in the number of minors available. And then the crime actually changed. So that activity disappeared. And then another type of exploitation arose online. So online sexual exploitation and abuse of children, live streamed and directed by people outside of that country. But the government was already equipped to address the sex trafficking issues, and now they're adapting to that new need and the way that crime is changing. So I would say that if you're looking at the overall institutional capacity to address and protect children, if you're building that sustainably into the government's capacity in long term, you don't see as much displacement.
Any more questions? Lady in the front row. If there's a mic coming, ma'am, if you could just give us one more second. Here you go.
Hi, thank you so much. This is an incredible initiative, much needed. So it's
Can you just tell us where you're
of
from
course.
and give us your name as well, please?
It's Irene Hell. I report for Copenhagen Post, and our press agency also files for Newsweek and Deutsche Welle, international broadcasters. Congratulations, you launched 1 year ago. I would love to learn, you made big leeway, child protection, recycling, World Bank is on board, couldn't be any better. So you hold a key position because all the energy transition is based on recharging batteries. Could you let me know what you have achieved so far and what your plans are for the next couple of years?
Good, that's a good question. Short-term objectives. Anybody else while we've got the mic? No, okay, so how do we get next, step by step, isn't it? We've got a big goal in 2030 to achieve. How do we get there? What are the first steps we take?
What we have achieved is that if you think about batteries, and I'm thinking about batteries for the power sector, until 18 months ago, you were hearing about a 100 megawatt hour facility built by Tesla in Australia, and that was more or less dead. But I have to say, nowadays, we are deploying it far quicker. So the World Bank, for example, in South Africa, is building a 1,440 megawatt hour batteries for power sector, which is very, very important. You see how it is becoming bigger scale by scale, and South Africa is a developing country. So what we're trying to do, we are trying to accelerate the deployment of batteries in power, for the reasons we just said: clean energy, access, and affordability. We have established last year, we announced it here at the One Planet Summit, a batteries facility for up to $3 billion We put $1 billion by the World Bank itself just to do that, just to accelerate the deployment. And the deployment is not only a matter of financing and building, it's a matter of educating developing countries on the use of batteries. It's a matter of building policies where regulators and policymakers are pushing for the use of batteries. So this is what we're doing, and I think it's quite material. And yeah, that's what I think we want to continue doing, accelerating as much as possible wherever we can access people that don't have electricity, wherever we can reduce the use of fossil fuels.
If we look at where we started with a very few members a couple of years ago, we're now over 60 members from private sector, public sector, and civil society. We've got members joining almost on a weekly basis. I think the latest one was Google last week. So it's becoming a serious group of serious players in this industry. We would like to increase our participation and representation from China, and we're very happy that we've got such a representation already here, so we're going to work on that. We've started working groups on cobalt. I mentioned the cobalt intervention will start next year, the roadmap. We'll have one particularly working on child labor in cobalt, because that's what originally was the starting point for the alliance. But we started working groups for lithium as well. We'll do the same for nickel and manganese and a few others. We've got a working group just on circularity, because that's a major responsibility a major task we have to address, and that's where I think our midstream partners, let's say the refiners and the battery materials makers, are going to be very important, because they understand a lot of recycling, because they know it from other industries, whether that's catalytic converters or the existing batteries today, which are mainly lead acid. We're looking at lead acid battery and recycling of how lead acid batteries are today, particularly in India, which is not a very sustainable practice. And we've got one whole work stream on innovation, trying to work on what is going to be the future of the battery technology. So all of those are quite exciting. We're also planning to introduce a battery pass for sustainability, something like a clean battery label that we want the end customers to see that the battery that is in their electric vehicle or in their electronic product has been produced and sourced in a sustainable way. And that's one of the targets for next that we're working on to publish that. We call it the passport, or the battery passport, which I believe we'll be implementing by just about summer next year. So next time you want to buy an electric vehicle, we want you to have a badge of sustainability on that battery and on the car to see, well, this is actually a product that's been produced in a way that we can be proud of.
I'd love to just come back on that subject very, very briefly. In our remaining 1 minute, the role of the consumer. How much on board are the consumer with this revolution in battery technology? As you said, labeling is going to help, but how much of the public consciousness, we just have to look outside, and the kind of the wellspring of emotion around key subjects such as climate change that really are reaching tipping points. Are consumers on board with the issues that this alliance is seeking to address? Yeah, Riccardo, please.
For me, consumers are key. They are the pulling power. They are the people who demand for sustainable batteries. They don't demand only service. They demand the service which is done with in a proper ethical manner. So that for us are very important, because they push industry, they push multilaterals, they push everybody to do it in the right way. We don't want to do some good on one side and some bad on the other.
And Mr. Liu, in China, of course, it was the air quality, of course, that was the initial kickstarter for China's huge kind of ramping up of a movement towards electric battery technology.
Actually, I personally feel much better compared to 5 years ago. The air quality in Beijing is much better now.
It's better now, than it was.
Yeah, it's actually in Beijing much more blue sky, and you can feel better. And we actually in Beijing have 300 million electric vehicles on the street, and people like to take the car. Even my son has an e-car. So that's I think the future. The trend is not reversible. Everybody try to figure out what kind of use the electric car, and the government has tried to figure out how to install more infrastructure for e-cars. Along with that, the batteries is especially important. We try to figure out the technology side to reduce the percentage of the cobalt and nickel reaches very well in the world. We try to figure out what can increase the energy density, increase the safety, increase the reliability of the batteries, and also set up the system to fully life recycle the batteries, and that we could contribute to our country, to the world, for less carbon dioxide.
It seems to me there's been a tremendous amount of progress in your alliance in the short time it's been existing. It's growing very rapidly, and you have a lot to do. Thank you very much for joining us here today. I very much expect to see you again in the Sustainable Development Impact Summits in the years to come as you move towards your target of 2030. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us here in the room, and for those watching live online at weforum.org. This session is now over.